Getting engaged can be stressful. Getting the right ring won't be at BlueNile.com. The jewelers at BlueNile.com have sparkle down to a science with beautiful lab-grown diamonds worthy of your most brilliant moments. Their lab-grown diamonds are independently graded and guaranteed identical to natural diamonds and ready to ship to your door. Get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more with code SPOTIFY at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com, code SPOTIFY for $50 off.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast where everyone is welcome to the table, but of course, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And this is episode 515, 10 Hottest Trends in Board Gaming. We like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us unlock a brand new episode. Hello, friends. And again, we come to you with the latest, the greatest, the hottest. And this week, my friend Anthony, we are talking about trends.
Trends. What are the things you keep seeing over and over again that are vaguely annoying, but also you buy them? So,
Oh, just like us.
yeah. Oh,
Well, I mean, we've been around for a bit. It's a thing.
yeah. No, hey, hopefully we're not vaguely annoying, but you do keep buying because you're here.
Well, I mean, there's worse things than being vaguely annoying, right?
That's true.
I like these guys. Something about them is a little bit annoying, but I will listen. I will figure this out.
Yeah. I like them most of the time. We'll
That's right.
figure. There's sometimes, and I don't know why.
I mean, it's
No,
515 episodes. I mean, that's gonna grate on anybody, right?
yeah. I will say, like 80% of the time we get off here, and I'm like, that was good. Every now and then, I'm like, that was an episode. So
That was the thing we did.
I'll admit it. I'm not going to tell y'all which ones I think were duds, but I appreciate y'all sticking around.
And remember, there's not just this episode. There's 514 other episodes.
Yeah, listen to all of them, and you tell us. No, don't tell us which ones are duds. No.
Jeez.
Get
Has
it in
anyone, has
Get
anyone
it-
actually listened to all 515?
Oh, I bet
That's
some.
listening?
Yeah, well, let us know. Leave a review. Leave a 5-star review and tell us. I've listened to all 515. Number 178. That was a dud. So,
Look, we're after quantity, not quality here. We know that.
we joke. Everything on our show is amazing, and y'all know it.
It is. And again, the really amazing part is that you're here with us, and that conversation is really what's super important. The podcast is about having everyone to the table each and every week. We do not break character. We're here every week for quite some time. And again, thank you so much for joining us here. Anthony, got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, brother.
Yeah, we're busy. Busy.
We're doing
Somewhat.
things.
February. Why not?
Happy Valentine's Day. It's a little late, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago.
That was a thing.
Yeah,
Was it
what's
happy
today?
for you?
It was fine. I don't know.
It was-
My wife
it was
was at
fine?
work, so it's just my daughter got like a gift bag from some boy, and I was like, "Wait a second,
Aw. Oh no.
you're not old enough for this. What's happening?" Everybody's like, "No, it's cute." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll stop being a toxic dad.
No. You got to do the dad thing. That's fine.
Yeah,
You
just
know.
do it quietly in the corner. Wait to see if I need." She's got a black belt. I'm not worried.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And for us single people, it was just another day.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what we tell ourselves. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. But yeah, that was good. Today we're recording this is President's Day, and so we all know how much we love that day now.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's a thing.
That's a great day.
There are
eh,
presidents in a lot of countries, and you might be someone in your country who loves their president, and that's awesome.
yeah, we're happy for you.
Yeah. Happy, happy, joy,
Uh,
joy.
and then we're here hanging out, talking about some board games.
Yeah, man.
I actually Valentine's Day was interesting here in Philly because the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and that's where I am, and people lost their minds because it's Philly. Um,
Football.
Football, yeah. So they canceled school and had a parade where like
Love it.
half the population of the city was down there, like quite literally, like 1.5 million people.
That's great.
So it's just like walking around my neighborhood, and it was just a ghost town. Nobody
Yeah.
was anywhere. I'm like going for a walk. It's creepy out here. It's like post-apocalyptic.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
it was a lot of. It was fun in a sense, and also like party is like, should I be down there? And then the other party's like, I don't want to be down there,
Mhm.
so I will not.
Okay. That's fair. It was a fun game, and
For
obviously
Eagles fans, yeah.
for Eagles fans there was. For Chiefs fans it was not. It was, but that's okay. They didn't come to the game anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's just the second time now where I'm rooting for a team and they blow out another team in the Super Bowl, and then I talk to anybody else and they're like, "That game was terrible." I'm like, "Oh, I guess it was." Right?
Yeah.
Like that. You came to my house when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and that was like
Yes.
44-6.
That was, yeah.
It's a terrible game, but I had a lot
That's
of
tough.
fun.
That's true. And there was another game where they just blew it, but we won't talk about that game.
No, that game's terrible.
You're supposed to run the ball, man. Got the top running back. You
Run the
run
ball.
the ball.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right,
You
we're moving into after show territory here.
There you go.
We got to get back to board games.
Board gaming.
Yeah.
Look, we're Renaissance man. We do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. We're doing things.
We're doing
Killing
things.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we had a question of the week that we posted, and we didn't get like a preponderance of answers. With like, when we're gonna do this again in the future because I think it's a really cool idea. But we did want to share a couple of them because again they're fun. This was the question: explain a board game poorly
Mhm.
using only the most obtuse, ridiculous wording. Explain a board game in a way that will stump us. So thank you to those on Patreon who submitted them. We got a couple
Yes. Very
good
nice.
ones. And I was reading back over these, and the answers are not here. So you and I have to figure these out with no clues.
Oh, there you go.
You ready?
And then the person who actually wrote them, who are listening right now, gets to laugh at us.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
That's what you're
So-
saying.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm fine with
And
that.
this is effectively our contest for the week. Like, do you stump us? Probably. Let's give it a go. So Drew wrote in and said, not sure if okay, so not sure if it puts the answer well or not. So here is the clue. 0 to fight over. 1 wants but doesn't know where to look. 1 doesn't and keeps hiding.
0 to fight over. 1 wants. Give me get one more time. I wasn't
0 to
expecting a haiku here.
I know, right? 0 to fight over. 1 wants but doesn't know where to look. 1 doesn't and keeps hiding.
Wow. That is obtuse.
Right.
Huh. 0 to fight over. Are we actually talking about a fighting game? Or are
I
we
don't-
talking about something more like this, like a party game, like the Cypher or something like that?
Yeah, I don't like that's the tough part. I don't know if
I-
it's like code names or something.
Yeah, but stay in hiding. One wants, one staying in hiding. So is this something along the lines of like a not just a social deduction game necessarily, but like you're hiding, one of those kind of hiding games out there?
Mm-hmm.
The vibe it gave me was like something more specific about trying to guess other people. So there's no fighting over it.
think you've stumped us, Drew.
I think it is something true. I'm gonna go. Decipher was the game that popped into my head, although I don't know if that
Mm.
is. It could be the bomb game where you have to cut the lines.
Oh,
That
sure.
might be a thing too. That's where I'm at, Drew. You can stop laughing now, Drew. It's fine. Seriously, Drew, stop laughing.
Yeah.
It's
It's
hurting my feelings now, Drew. Stop laughing.
half the
Jeez.
listeners are like, obviously, it's this game. You guys are
Ah,
terrible.
well,
Yeah. So, Drew, hit us up. Let us know what the answer is, and we'll let you all in on the secret next week. So,
wah wah.
all right. So we got another one from John here.
All right, John, what do you got?
So, and he wrote it in rhyming couplets.
These guys are too smart for us.
I know. They're like, not
Yeah,
only would
no,
it word it poorly, it's poetry. Okay. Compete in battles, win the scrap, control the places on the map. Winter comes, and so does spring, changing almost everything. You must avoid the bishop's touch, or you'll end up with not much. You'll need someone to scare the crows to give your soldiers further goes. And now it's up to you to name, if you can, this small board game.
wow.
Yeah.
I had so many different games run through mine as that was happening.
Yeah. It's area control. There's seasons or something that
Yeah.
changes the layout of the game.
So I was thinking, I'm
Like
blanking on
Rising
it.
Sun.
No, I was thinking of like Dominant Species, because
Oh, okay.
seasons do play a kind of thing, but that
Right.
doesn't necessarily have to
But
be
then
a
there's a
thing.
bishop. So it's
The bishop that changed everything.
Western civilization of some kind.
That brought me into Kalis.
Okay.
I don't know if that plays in seasons though.
Oh, yeah.
It might. It might. The rounds might be seasons. There's bishop play in that as far as like, but then we're at the crows. Tell me the crows thing line again.
You'll need someone to scare the crows or give your soldiers further goes. So something about scaring some crows so your soldiers can do stuff.
Is crows the kind of is that the unique clue there? Like scaring the crows, or is that just kind of more metaphorically kind of
I
thing?
don't know. It's a good question.
Someone knows out there. Someone's saying it right
Yeah.
now. Someone's very upset.
The winter clue and the crow clue are making me think of Game of Thrones,
Sure.
but I don't know about the bishop. All right, John, you stumped us as well. So,
Oh man, it was so close. It
We
was so
tried.
well written. It was written so well.
Oh man, I love how we're inspiring poetry from our listeners. This is
I
great.
really like this. This is going to be a spinoff for the podcast, man. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, got some smart people out there.
Listeners poetry, episode
Brilliant.
1. All right, so John, Drew, thank you both. Write in and let us know the answers to these. We will share them next week if we hear back from y'all.
Yes.
And I'll hit you up in terms of like prizes for winning our contest this week for your amazing submissions that we couldn't guess.
It's going to be like a puzzle book or a poetry book, right? That's the prizes.
No, sure, it should be.
Well, there you go. Excellent.
All right. So yeah, there you go, folks. Which brings us to more poetry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So every week we scour to see, if anybody's left any new reviews. And it's fun to share the 5-star reviews here on the podcast. So Reginald posted a review over on Spotify. You can leave comments on any individual episode on Spotify, and I get a notification, so I will see it.
Ooh.
So Rolling Reggie's haiku review.
Hit us.
More poetry. I love it. I know board games well. This podcast is pretty swell.
Nice.
Great guys, you can tell.
Aw.
A rhyming haiku.
I love
Nice.
it. Next level, bro.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody out there, if you haven't done it yet, just hit us up on literally any of these platforms. Leave a 5-star review, leave a funny comment, leave a haiku, leave rhyming couplets, whatever you want to do. We'll read it out on the show. So
Yeah.
Thank you to Reginald and everybody else.
Yeah, we're also on YouTube. So again, we just post on YouTube. Even though we're a podcast, we want to be as accessible as possible for people.
Mhm.
So again, if you're on there, like, subscribe, and you can also drop your comments and reviews there as well. Thanks so much. All right, Anthony. Well, that's what's going on with all of our friends out there. There's some updates going on with Board Game Academics.
Yeah, folks. So it is not up just yet when you're listening to this, but in about a week, we're going to have volume 3 will be live. So keep an eye out for that. Or not volume 3, volume 2. I'm
Yes.
already thinking of volume 3 because we're taking proposals for that.
Hmm.
So keep your eyes peeled for volume 2 going up on March 1st. If you would like to submit for volume 3, you have about another week as well. So that closes on February 28th. We are still accepting proposals for next year's journal. So hit us up there. You can see all the information on boardgameacademics.com. We also have a brand new article up on our Victory Points column. Went up just today. So you can check that out from Matthew McCack about introversion and the social paradox in board gaming with such a socially active activity and how so many of us are introverted and enjoy it. So, a wonderful article. Check that out. And if you have something of your own that you'd like to share, hit us up. We have space in upcoming months for new columns.
Yeah, if you're new to Board Game Academics, check it out at boardgameacademics.com. There's, as Anthony was mentioning, an academic journal that has some really great articles talking about tabletop gaming, giving you deep insights from some really brilliant writers out there. And then Victory Point essays that are up uh, that give you insight into people's perspectives and experiences in tabletop gaming. Both of these are for all of you to read and enjoy, and also to share with other people to let them know about how great gaming can be. And of course, as Anthony mentioned, the call for papers. If you have an academic idea or research, we want to hear about it and see it. Or if you have a particular experience or story that you want to share, we want to get it up on Victory Point Essays. So again, thank you so much for submitting. Thank you so much for sharing. And again, hit us up because I know that you have something to say out there.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's everything's going on with the state of play at BGA. Anthony, let's get on to it. Let's talk about our roll for preview.
All right. I'll kick this off just before we even dive into it. Have you played Bullet?
I think I've played Bullet. Now that
Okay,
you mention
great.
it. Yeah.
All right. So I don't have to explain the whole thing to you. Although we do have several thousand listeners who probably want to know what Bullet is. Um, so Bullet is this really kind of quirky, fun game from Level 99 Games. And Level 99 Games is a lot of their games are like fighting focused, very anime look. It's a
Yes.
Western company. It's not Japanese, but definitely takes a lot from like anime tropes and anime style.
Yeah.
Great artwork. And so Bullet is a game of like I don't know what do you call it? It's like on rails shooter type of thing, but it's a puzzle based game. So
Yeah.
you
It's
have like the heroine. Each of them has their own special pattern or formula, and then you
Mhm.
have these discs that drop down, and you have to like defeat them.
it's very video game based.
Yeah.
And I played this with our friend Erin from Board Game Academics, and she's
Okay.
from Board Games for the Better. And she had backed the entire Kickstarter. I played this a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
And as you mentioned, really amazing artwork, video game vibe, like fun. And actually, Bullet has a heart after it, and that's like officially the name of the game.
One of them has a heart after it.
Yeah.
We'll
But the
get
one
to
I
that.
well,
But
the one I played has the heart after it.
yeah.
So it's very themed in that kind of like fast-paced, fun, kind of dynamic puzzle game, battle game.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like you basically you have to make different shapes and patterns on this grid, and then it gives you special abilities that kind of help you clear these things off the grid.
Mhm.
It's fairly straightforward.
Yep.
It's an abstract puzzle game, but like you said, it's what makes it so cool is it's very video gamey,
Yes.
right? It's almost like that's Twitch reflexes. The game takes like 15 minutes to play, which
Yeah.
is perfect, and it can play like up to 8 people. Like just you have all the different people playing. So what I have a copy of this. I think I have Bullet Heart,
Oh,
um,
nice.
just like the retail version. And there's been a ton of expansions. They've run a few Kickstarter campaigns,
Mhm.
and I haven't bought all the extra stuff because I don't play it that much, but I do like it, and
Yeah.
I like the variability in the different heroines.
Yes,
I don't know which one you played with or how many you got to play with, but they're all very different.
they are. I played a couple of them. They were fun.
Yeah, it's cool. Um, so there are now 39
Oh my
heroines.
I know. Oh, jeez.
Um, and 2 promos, so really 41, and 2 new expansions that are coming with this big old storage box on the Bullet Cubed campaign,
Oh, man.
which is over on GameFound right now. So this is you pull it up, and it's kind of like a cool center opening box. Which who knows how that'll work, but it's very anime. It's got some anime vibes going on. And there is a lot of content for the game. Like if you can just get a retail box, which is like $25, it has like
Sure.
enough to play with a few people, and it's all pretty straightforward. If you want all the stuff though, there's a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
So this campaign is everything I just said, but you have 39 different ways to do it. So that's cool. Um, and like even you go to the Game Found campaign and the way they set it up, it looks like a fighting game, right?
Yes.
Like the character select screen, very cool.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Um, and then you get a big old storage box, and you get all the different modes that come with the game. So there's like a free for all mode, there's a team mode, there's a score attack mode, just like solo mode,
Mm-hmm.
and a boss rush mode. So like kind of these like boss attack type things. I've played I think 3 of these 4 before. Um, the boss rush and the score attack are both solo modes. That's primarily how I play games, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And I've played the free for all as well with some friends once. So they're all pretty good. It's a funny game. Like I just assumed it'd be kind of like a throwaway abstracty thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was never a big fan of like that Exceed fighting game that
Sure.
they did with all the different modules.
Yeah.
And in my head, this was kind of more of that, but it seems like more than that.
It's a real time game too, right? You're actually playing this against other people at the same time. You're doing your things.
Yeah, everybody's kind of doing their own thing and
Yeah.
took a timer to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, conceptually, I like a lot of this. I like all the heroines in the game. That's really my favorite thing about tabletop gaming is having so many different characters I could play with, and that have at least some sort of asymmetrical power to it. The anime style artwork here is great. The puzzle stuff is a little abstract for me.
Right.
It's just not my jam so much. But I what I really do like about the system is it's so easily accessible, and once you play the game once, all the other modes are really they fall into line.
Right.
And the different heroines in the game actually allow different options for gameplay styles. So it's not just like this one gives you +1, this one does this thing. It's like no, this has a certain different aspect to it. And I think that's pretty impressive considering, like you mentioned, 39 different heroines, and
Hmm.
to have different play styles on that abstracted board is really fun. I remember when I played this and just going through the different heroines in the heart version of it, and just like I would really like to play like 4 or 5 different versions of this, because once you get one game down, you're like, I wonder how this works or how
Right.
this works against that. So yeah, it's great that they made the giant version. I really do like Level 99's production. Like it, there's a couple of games I like there, but I would say everything about the company and their game production does really feel like they actually do care. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of effort put into it. Maybe not always the amount of editing that they need, but certainly like some game companies put out games like, oh, this is a good game. But like when Level 99 puts a game out, like you could tell these people are real gamers and fans. Like I think there's a few other companies like maybe Flying Frog Games, and there's a couple
Mm.
of others where it's just like they're gamers, they're fans, they seriously put everything they could into it, and it shows.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. No, it's and this is a very good game. Like, and honestly, like as a solo gamer, it's fantastic because it's quick, it's short, and there's like 100 different ways to play it.
Yeah.
So the naming scheme does give me a bit of a headache. It's hard to search for things.
Yes,
So
I don't know why they did that. I think they wanted to be super cute, and then they were just like, "Oh no, we're stuck. We're really stuck into
yeah,
this now."
and it's funny because Board Game Geek kind of gave up, and maybe that's partly like the subtitles on the expansions don't correspond to like ASCII keys.
Sure.
So you have Bullet Heart and Bullet Star; those are the 2 base boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have Bullet Orange, Bullet Paw, Bullet Palette, Bullet
No.
Trigger. Not Bullet Trigger. I'm sorry. Bullet Fan and Bullet Orange Plus. So, and those are the
Ugh.
2 new ones: Orange Plus and Fan. Um, I and on the boxes it is the icon of those things. Like there's a paw, there's an orange, there's a fan. Um, but on Board Game Geek they actually started spelling out the words, which is nice.
I wonder if there is a. I mean, we've had this. I mean, I think everyone's had this conversation at some point. Like, should there be standards in tabletop gaming? Like, everyone should have to follow.
Mm.
Right? It brings down creativity, but it makes things so much easier.
It is tough when things are named a certain way, I will say.
Yeah.
Like Like, don't name something just a noun, right? I can't find it if it's just a noun
You
or
mean the game
the
called
game.
The Game?
So bad. Yeah.
That's not a thing.
Yeah.
Why is
You
that
can
a thing?
you can find it now just because it's got enough stuff written about it, but when that game came out, you could not find it. It was impossible unless you could remember the designer's name. It was just impossible to
Which,
find.
come on, come on.
I don't know who designed that.
I still don't know. I own the copy of the game. The Game.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So anywho, this campaign is up for let's see here, like another week. Yeah,
9
another week.
days. Yeah.
Yeah,
give or
when you
take.
see this. It's expensive if you want all the stuff. It's $200 for all in, which is I guess the 2 base boxes and the 5 expansions and plus all the promos. There's also guess how much the stupid version
Oh
is?
no! Don't tell me stupid version.
It is $400.
Whoa!
Right. So base set, all the expansions, but then you get
Oh no.
wooden bullets.
Okay.
Yeah, like it said, a little cardboard shit to get wood ones.
All right.
You get multiple vinyl record soundtracks.
Why?
There are 3 of them. Uh,
Oh, okay. I mean, to be fair, it is a real time game, and you could play the music while the real time's happening.
yeah,
There's an app, right?
I don't know. I never use an app, but
Okay, sure.
um, but you get a few of those. There's a game mat. There are all the promos, and then you get some inked cards as well.
Yeah,
So I don't I don't think it's worth another $200 for a few wooden bullets and records. But if you're a big fan,
I like the wood bullets thing. This is the problem I think with a lot of the companies. Like, just you gotta know when to stop.
yeah,
Just gotta know when to stop.
it's too much. Yeah, the wood bullets by themselves are $25, which
Yeah,
I might just buy anyways because that would be cool to have.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this might be better. I mean, this might lend itself better to like an actual anime or a manga, just to
Mm,
give you a more feel to the game as far as like why you're doing these things.
sure.
I would have liked that more as like the upgraded version. Like, give me the regular game, but if I want the backstory and the color and the flash to it, I think
Mm,
that would certainly incentivize me to do that.
sure.
But I don't need soundtracks and gigantic mats because I own gigantic mats already. So
Yeah, it's funny. We're gonna talk about trends later. This game, I think, hits 3 of them. So
oh no, it's a 3 alarmer.
I know. Yeah, somehow I'm like, wow, it's got all 3 in here. That's crazy. But
Run, kids, run! It's gonna
uh,
get you.
so, anywho, check that out. If you just want the base game, you can get that too. It's like $35. So it's not impossible to get something out of here for a reasonable price. But if you have Bullet and want a lot of more cool stuff, it's up there. And it's just cool to look, through what they have. And this box is really ridiculous looking as well.
Well, if Aaron's listening, there you go, Aaron. Good luck.
Yeah, have fun.
All right. Well, on my roll for review, I got a chance to play King of Tokyo Duel. Anthony, you like King of Tokyo. You're a King of Tokyo guy.
I dig me some King of Tokyo. I was like 2 dice rolls away from going to Gen Con from King of Tokyo.
And then you purposely tanked that so not to go to Gen Con.
I did not, but I would have if I'd known what it involved. Yes.
There you go. Yeah, Anthony and I are old school King of Tokyo players. We played when it first came out at our friendly local game store that no longer exists. Checkboard Game Geek for a full description of what happened there. Jeez. So I think I more than you, Anthony, have been continuing the love and the passion for King of Tokyo.
Yeah.
So continue to compete, continue to chase after the promo monsters, continue to pick up the expansions. And then I think at some point, and I think this also hits our later list here too, this just became an expansive universe that had a bunch of different expansions, endless numbers of promos. I mean, I'm not even just I'm not I'm not it's not being facetious here. Like there's just like I think there's like 50 or 60
Something
different
like that. It's a
monsters.
lot. Yeah.
Because I saw at some point someone had posted their collection and it was enormous. And now obviously with King of Tokyo, there's new monsters here too, or at least upgraded versions of those monsters. So it's
Mhm.
just the cutouts that you can play with the game without having anything new to them, but it's just a cutout. So they found a way to make money, is basically. They found a way to print money. And they did. And that's great. And then they had King of Tokyo. Basically, if you have not played the game, it's utilizing dice, the dice mechanic of Yahtzee, which is basically you roll, and then if you don't like certain dice rolls, you can re-roll those dice up to 3 times.
Mhm.
And basically, the game is King of the Hill. So you want to be the last monster standing and knock everybody else out, or you want to score the most fame. And fame is scored by points that you'll be able to roll in the dice, and sometimes there are cards that'll give you points as well. That's the game. Plays, from 2 to 6 players, but obviously 2 players is a little bit fraught. Ergo, King of Tokyo Duel, because spoiler, it's one of the hot trends out there. Everything's a duel.
Yeah.
And now King of Tokyo did a duel thing. We talked about this a little while back because it kind of blew up a little bit because this was, at least I think initially, a Target big box store exclusive. Target's kind of been investing in tabletop gaming and actually have a very good collection of modern hobby board games. So, being a big King of Tokyo Duel fan, big fan of this. Also, it's currently on Board Game Arena as a beta game, so you could play this on Board Game Arena for free. Again, I guess you have to have the account, which is like $2 a month. So let's talk about the game. So I talked to you about the actual game, King of Tokyo. So Duel obviously is a 2-player version of the game. So what actually is different from the game is not only is there 2 players, fighting out here, but there's a lot of different aspects that have changed from the original. So first off, you have dice that you're going to be rolling, of course, but the dice rolling is a little different. So you do still have the smash, you still have the heal, you still have the energy. Now, here comes the 3 new different die faces. You have fame. Fame used to be the stars, the numbers, basically were points in the original King of Tokyo. But the fame and the destruction token, face of the die, which was also used in King of New York, which was King of Tokyo, but in New York, somewhat a superior version, but also not. Again, we'll leave that for another day. So this is the part of the game where it becomes a duel. So if you ever played Seven Wonders Duel, you'll know that there is a military track and you are kind of pulling back and forth, tug of war style, to try to get your marker at a certain place. So, same thing happens here. If you get to roll 3 die face of either fame or destruction, the marker moves 1 towards you. If you get your marker, either fame or destruction, all the way over to your end, you win the game. If you're able to get the fame and destruction marker, both of them, over to a certain, slot location on your side of the board, both of them, but not completely at the end, you also win. So that is one win condition of the game. Now, beyond that, there's also knocking the other player out. So that's where the bash comes in. So if you're able to knock them out, you can do that as well. What's a little different with this game is actually, in fact, each monster has a different, not a wide variety, but has a different health to start with. So Anthony, remember we all started with the same amount of health, and then we try to kind of build that up throughout the game.
Right.
Depending on the monster that you pick in this game, this is where the game kind's a little different. You get to choose your monster, and you have some of the classic monsters like Gigasaur and Alienoid, and Space Penguin and a Mecha Dragon, but they're going to have slightly different health based upon the strength of their power. So each monster gets a special power. I mentioned this a little bit before. There's a dice face that has exclamation points. And depending on your monster's power, the exclamation points can trigger if you end up with those exclamation points. And they do a number of different things. So, for example, the Space Penguin, if they get 1 exclamation point, and for the number that they get, you'll get an additional die token, so you can use that at a later point. If you play the Mecha Dragon, the exclamation points are multipliers for the bash symbol, so it allows you to, attack and knock out the other players. And then there's a variety of other things that they do. Cyber Kitties, creates energy and so forth and so on. I really like that aspect of the game because you could get some of that through the power-up expansion. You played the power-up expansion, right?
Yeah. It's the only way to play.
Yeah, you get those again, it's a small number of monsters that actually have those cards. But when you roll 3 hearts, you get to flip over and activate one of your special powers. So it makes you feel a little bit more connected to the monster. On top of which, there are what they call buzz tokens. Buzz tokens kind of benefit and subtract value of those different tracks. So based upon purchasing certain cards, you might be able to place a buzz token either in your pathway or against your opponent. When you land on certain spots, you'll get special bonuses or benefits. That's it. That's the whole game. It's done. I explained the whole game to you because it was incredibly short, and you probably played King of Tokyo, and this version isn't radically different because you played dual version games before. The artwork is cool, even better, I think, than the original. It's a lot more dynamic. It's a lot more detailed. I do like the different monster powers. There might be some that are OP, but they slightly give you more or less health depending on that. I haven't played enough. I played it about close to 10 times now at this point. Some games are back and forth and come down to a certain die roll. Some games are very quick and you might get lucky and kind of zoom down on one side of the section. I don't mind the fact that some games can go quick because the game itself is quick. I don't mind the fact that the tug of war along with the hitting the person is 3 different ways to win because that's, allows you, like, if you're not rolling, attacks, you could force the subject by rolling a lot of destruction and try to pull somebody away from that tactic because now they have to respond to that.
Mhm.
So I think it does Duel very well. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings, where it has that same tightness to it, which you absolutely need in a duel game,
Mhm.
but you are still rolling dice. So you could possibly, despite the mitigation that you're able to do based on your player power, and despite, I didn't mention this before, but when you can purchase cards in the game like King of Tokyo, Anthony,
Mhm.
but uh the last card on the row, there's 3 cards in the row, is 1 energy cheaper. And generally you will be purchasing more and more cards because if you don't purchase a card per round, here's the twist, Anthony, you're going to like this. You get a free energy regardless.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to be building energy even if you're not rolling energy, and the card is cheaper. And the last card cheaper at the very least. So I've seen some situations where people have just built a lot of energy and that's their
Mhm.
whole game style and just bought a ton of cards. And they've done very well and sometimes won based on that. So I really enjoy this a lot. I own a lot of King of Tokyo. I stopped purchasing the expansions at some point. As Anthony, you were mentioning, like the power up for expansion was the best. There's
Mhm.
other ones. I have not picked up other ones. I picked up some other ones too, of course, earlier versions, but I think it kind of it hit its crescendo at the power expansion. I'm going to purchase this. This is a buy for me. I think it does a very good job of playing King of Tokyo in that last round. And, since it's an elimination game, or at least can be an elimination game, and if you do play with 4 or 5 players in that game, other players are going to be out for quite some time. This is a 2-player game. It's quick, it's fun, it's fast, it's dynamic. You get to play a lot more cards, which is great. So, absolute play, Anthony.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like King of Tokyo. I don't really play it much except with my kids. So,
hmm
uh it's but like two-player version cuz that is like the worst way to play base King of Tokyo.
Yeah. Same thing with Seven Wonders.
Yeah. Like we'll get to that when we talk about our I guess we're talking about here in a second, but the best way to improve a game is to find the worst player count or find
Yes.
the worst way that they tell you it's okay to play and then fix that. So,
They lie.
they lie.
Yeah, and this
Oh,
game,
it plays 2 to 8. Like, no, it
yeah,
doesn't. 4 to 7.
it's never that number.
No.
Yeah, and this is, you can pick up as Target. You could obviously pick this up at a lot of places coming soon. It's $28, which is kind of fair, I think, for what you get in the game. I think it's a generally decent price considering everything is now expensive.
Mhm.
So yeah, King of Tokyo Duel is a buy. Definitely check it out on Board Game Arena. It plays really well there. There's some little hiccups since it's still in beta, but you could just jump into that game and play it, and it's totally fine.
Sweet.
All right, well, that's everything that's hitting our table, rolling around. let's get on to our feature review. So our feature review this week is, of course, the top 10 hottest trends in board gaming. So Anthony, we've been talking about tabletop gaming for quite some time, my friend. Quite a few years, quite a few episodes. And it turns out more and more these days when something hits, everybody's got to get on board.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Like back in the day, we've had our lists before of like card game versions or dice game versions. And those have been happening since like the 90s. That's not new. Like Reiner Knizia has done that with like almost all of his games. Like
Sure.
I didn't know there was a card game version of Raw until I played it. I'm like, oh, look at this. He did this. Um, so it's been going on for a long time, but I feel like now it's a thing where like if one hits, everybody's
Yes.
like, let's do that. That's making money. We're all going to do that right now. And so there's actually a bunch of them. Like we started brainstorming and we actually had a list of like 15. We're like, oh, we got to boil this down to 10. So uh, there's a lot of like hot trends. Some of these are more recent. Some of them are a little bit, been going on for a while, but they're all things affecting how games
Yeah.
are being made right now.
And I think too, even though there was a couple of those games out there, it was always like there was one game out there of it until it blew up like later down the road. But now it's just the turnaround time is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, and they all kind of clump together because everybody copies the thing all at once.
Ow. Immediately.
All right, so let's jump into the list here. We're gonna start at number 10.
Yes.
That is now this is one that I feel like they all clustered together about 5 to 7 years ago, like right
Yeah.
before COVID. It's still happening. Like there's a game that I got recently. I've been playing with my daughter that is exactly one of these. But the whole my first trend,
Yes.
right? Which is not the family version trend,
No.
which we don't actually reference here, but there is a family version trend, right?
Yes.
So like, you've got Agricola, and then there's family Agricola. But it's the my first where it's like boiled down to the point where you could play it with like a 5 or 6 year old.
Yes.
Of these big games.
Yeah. So you have my first Carcassonne, my first Stone Age, my first Castle Panic, my first Bonanza, my first Stone Age the card game, and there's a lot of other my first, but those are just like big my first versions of things.
Yeah. The one I've been playing recently is Alchemists.
Yeah.
It's called Little Alchemists. Alchemist is one of the heaviest games out there, period. And the reason this exists is because the guy who designed it wanted to play, his kids wanted to play with him. And he's like, well, you can't play this game, so I'll make a version you can play. And it's cute, and I'm having fun playing with my daughter, and she's having no trouble with it at all. So it's kind of a cool thing. I don't think we see it quite as much. Like all those ones you mentioned, I feel like came out within like a year of each other.
Yeah.
And it's trailed a little bit, but I also think there's still a market for that where gamer parents want to share the big heavy games they like with their kids, but they're like, I need a version that's not gonna make them cry. So
Yes, it's true. It's interesting too because again, back in the day, which turns out to be a Tuesday, there was not that thing, right? Like it was almost sacrilege. Like the idea that you would make a more compact, simpler version of a game like that was unheard of, unthought of at the time, because like you wouldn't want to, tarnish the reputation of a game like Carcassonne.
right.
And now it's just like, nope, we got a thing. It's a it's a baby brother of the thing. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a cool thing. All right, number 9 on the list is miniature versions of bigger games.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like you brought up a specific one
I
when
did.
we were looking at this list, and I'm like, yes, 100% spot on.
And that became a collection of games. So the King of Tokyo collection, the little tiny boxes that you find in, I guess, Target and other big box stores, where it's just like a really little micro version of the bigger game. They usually play super quick, about 15 minutes to a half hour. Also, I think Azul had done a small mini version of their game as well. So a
Yep.
lot of kind of like condensed, crunched, but still the actual gameplay of the game.
Right, yeah, like the Ticket to Ride, but I like the New York one's my favorite because it's cabs, right?
Yes.
Like they're like it's not even trains. You're taking cabs around the city. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what the game is. You're collecting money, and at the end, you're like, I have $7. I win. So,
and you're like, hey people, there's a bigger version of this, and they're like, really? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like a my first version because
No.
this is like one that you could bring and play like in a coffee shop or with your
Hmm.
parents or something. Like the rules are the same. It's just the scope is much smaller.
Yeah, and again, you could also think of this as, man, what was the my epic, the little
Yeah.
mini my
Tiny
epic,
epic.
tiny epic version of literally everything on the planet.
Right.
So that was also the idea of taking a traditional hobby board game and then condensing it to a size that actually fits, as you said, Anthony, like on a coffee table somewhere at a Starbucks or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those are mini versions, which leads to number 8, which is of course mega versions. If you got mini versions, you need mega versions. This is another one that you had a very specific game in mind, and I was like, "Are there others that have been that dumb?" But there are. We thought of some more. So,
Yeah, so I mean, the one that popped into my head was mostly because it was so big it couldn't fit in my head completely. Is the Mad King Ludwig gigantic crowd-funded version with the tiles that were so big that they still to this day have not put up pictures of what
Mhm.
table this fits on?
I know. I still don't know what it looks like. Oh man, yeah. That's the biggest one, but that's also like the dumbest one. So
That's
it's
the
hard to
dumbest.
like it's big and it's also dumb. So other stuff that I thought of, and it's not necessarily bigger components, although there are bigger like there's giant versions of Azul that you can get.
There's that
Um,
$300 version of Azul with the giant tiles. My Rhino Hero, the super one, that
Giant Rhino Hero, yeah.
there's a giant version of that too.
Yep.
Codenames has a giant version, which I think is just better for us who wear glasses and can't
Yeah.
necessarily see all the cards on the
Just bigger
table.
cards for bigger groups, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, there's also, like, blowing up the mechanics themselves, so, like, Mega Civilization,
sure.
which is, I guess now Eastern and Western empires, but it's like a 30-hour game based on
Yes.
the 6-hour game that is originally came out.
Or I guess again, where you see games that just like, hey, this has, like we talk about Star Trek Ascendancy that
Mhm.
has like 3 or 4 races, and now it has like 13 races in it.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, bigger things.
Yeah, you know that game that we said was, like, 3 players? Well, now it can be 5, and it takes 37 hours. Have fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, bigger, more. I think that kind of covers
Bigger
a lot of on our
maps,
list. Yep.
bigger pieces. You talk about the yeah. I mean, well, we'll get to that too. There's bigger, and then there's other things versions
Yeah.
of this too.
My favorite is like the fan version of bigger though. Like, have you ever seen the Terraforming Mars homebrew that's like all 3 maps?
No, I haven't seen that.
So like you have to terraform all 3 sides of the planet.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's like 9 hours long. But
Jeez.
and you need multiple copies because you need more cards because it's very long. But I always wanted to try it. I just haven't found a group of people willing to sit down and play Terraforming Mars for 6 or 7
I
hours.
mean, typically, if you do play at least the original version of Terraforming Mars, it could take almost that long.
That is true. 5-player Terraforming Mars,
Oh yeah,
not short.
people are not terraforming the Bard because they haven't instituted that rule yet. They're not playing with Prelude.
Yep, yep. I played it just a 2-player game on Board Game Arena not too long ago as one of our tournaments,
Mhm.
BGA tournaments, and it was we completely filled the planet, and the final scores were like 120 to 110 or
Oh
something,
man.
like really really high scores, highest I've ever seen, because both of us got to the point of like I could end the game right now, or I could build more plants. I could end the game right now. It was
Jeez.
like 3 extra rounds of just like I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
So that's what that game is. All right. Moving on to number 7. This is a trend that has a very definitive starting point. There was one game that came before, but that was kind of an isolated thing. But like in 2016, we got Pandemic Legacy,
Yes.
and now we've gotten a bunch of things trying to pull off what Pandemic Legacy pulled off. It's arguable if many of them have succeeded, but
Yeah.
they
I,
exist and they keep coming out.
it was one of the biggest trends when it first came out. I mean, it was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It hit the market hard, fast. Uh, Risk Legacy. You had Charterstone, which was a
Yeah.
legacy game. Yeah, we won't. The less we talk about Charterstone, just probably the better.
Yeah.
And Time Stories was again that because these were concepts that people debated for a long time, like a one and done game. Like, how do you conceive of that when when you look at the value of a tabletop game, it usually is based on, at least for
Hmm.
me, but it's usually based on like replayability.
Right.
Can I purchase this game and then play it for the next 5, 10 years? Not to
Hmm.
mention the fact that sometimes I have games for 5 or 10 years and don't get them played. So,
Right.
but no, this game burns out. It's one and done, and it was controversial up and down. And then everyone did it. Seafall was another game that fell off. That was, ugh.
Yeah. It does seem like so in my head when we made the list, I'm like, oh, isn't this trend kind of dying? And then I pulled up Board Game Geek and I was
Yeah,
like, how many of these came out last year? I was like, I don't know, like 60.
yeah,
Like, oh, never mind. Like we had the Ticket to Ride Legacy game was
yep.
last
That
year.
was that was big.
Clank Legacy 2,
Yep.
that was huge. It's like a 9.1 on Board Game Geek. People
Yeah.
love that. There was like a Star Realms Legacy mode.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of stuff from Kickstarter that has legacy stuff in it. The number one game right now on the BGG hotness is a legacy game. It's
Yeah.
a legacy two-player trick-taking game.
I mean,
Because sure,
ideally, if you can, I'm gonna. This is a radical. I mean, I don't know. Hot take on this, at least a little bit. Like, I think if you have the genius to do it, I think a legacy game is almost always going to be the best version of a game. Just
no, sure,
because, like, you get to modify the game. You get to have, like, the decisions you make in a game are everlasting. There's no going back. You're ripping cards up. You're putting stickers down. Characters are being discovered or, lost. I mean, Gloomhaven has some of those legacy elements to it as well,
sure,
and obviously has done quite well because characters are retired, new characters come out. So, I mean, just there's just bigness to that. And again, if you can pull that off, I think it's going to be always the best game of all time.
yeah, yeah. I One of my best gaming experiences is still playing Pandemic Legacy with my wife. Like 9 years later, I'm like, man, that was a lot of fun. I wish they'd do more of that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So going from Legacy, which is big and sprawling and long, to games that just kind of expand.
Ooh.
Right. So this can be defined a few different ways, but what we were thinking specifically is a game system that can be built on with other games that are technically expansions, but also
Sure.
standalones, but also just more stuff.
Yes.
Right. And this is very driven by the Kickstarter ethos,
Mm-hmm.
crowdfunding. Right. So I think the first game you and I thought of was Marvel United,
Yes.
but also like any of the LCGs, those are
Oh,
all heavily expandable. Hundreds of dollars I've spent on Marvel Champions. Um, Most of those big miniature games, things like Nemesis
yes.
with like $1,000 for all the stuff. That's a lot.
Yeah, and there's also more of the board game version. So you have the Century Spice Road series
Sure.
of games, the three games that they can kind of play separately, but also are in a system, and they can be played at the same time in some versions. And Last Will, I think, was the originator of that, where Last Will and then its companion game you could play also at the same time, but also separately.
Yeah.
Prodigals Club. So it's like, do you want to play both of them at the same time? You can do that. You can play them also separately. So those kind of system wide games, or even you just mentioned Bullet.
Yeah.
That's just like an endless game system of just endless character designs that you can play into the game.
Yeah. 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 The game system, right?
Yes.
Which even like if you zoom out a little bit, you have things like Pandemic, which has like 30 versions now because there's the Pandemic game system, which is like
Yes.
a logo they print on the back of the box now. So it's a growing thing and it prints money for these companies. So they all keep trying to find one.
Yeah, I think, and we had a conversation with Emerson Matsuchi, the designer of Century Spice Road, and the favorite for me is the Gollum version, of course. And he mentioned, he's like, that's what companies want. They want to have something that's brandable like that.
Hmm.
So if you can have a system that's ever expanding, everlasting, like CCGs do in a tabletop game, they really want that.
Hmm.
That's money in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to number 5, we have the growing trend of taking your tabletop game, board game IP, and converting it to a tabletop role playing game.
Yeah,
So
this is a weird one.
it is a weird one. And it's, some of them make a little more sense than others. Like I have the rule book around here somewhere for Twilight Imperium,
Okay.
like that universe within the Genesis system. I think I have the Keyforge book as well. Um, and that's just something that uh, they did at Fantasy Flight. They had fun with that. but then you get stuff like Tricarion or
Yes.
Root. Like Root, I guess I don't see a lot of lore in there, but why not?
What about Terraforming Mars?
Terraforming Mars, yes. Like there's no characters there unless you count like the actors in the photos.
The royalty free actors in the photos.
Yeah, they're family members, actors in the photos.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. It's funny. I think it's funny. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's a funny thing.
Well,
I-
if the
but
game has like a universe built into it of like characters and story, then it kind of follows a little bit. But when the game, like you said, a Tricarion or a Terraforming Mars, and it's a board game or Catan or something like that, and they're just like, "There's a story behind this." I'm like, "There
right.
really isn't. There
Yeah.
just isn't. Like, where are you pulling this from? Like, all right, like go for it, but I don't know where this is coming. I don't know where it's going."
Right. Right. Because like I read through the Root core book and I'm like, this is good. This is a good role playing game. I don't know why it needed to be Root,
Yeah.
except the IP, and then you have the people, and then they're going to buy the thing. Which, sure, it's probably marketing, but
The quest for more money.
it's
That's the
always
reason.
it's always the quest for more money. But it's cool. It's fun. If you have an RPG in the back of your head, if you can build one, obviously there's a lot of money to be made in that market as well. And people like me who love those games will buy the thing. Um, so there you go, folks. TTRPGs. It'll keep happening. Next up, we have solo modes. So it's not necessarily standalone solo games, although the number of those has grown over the last few years, but specifically games that make sure to throw in a solo mode. In fact, it's to the point now that
Oh my
if a
God.
Euro game comes out and doesn't have a solo mode, people are like, "Why? What's wrong with it?" Right? And it usually means it's like heavily interactive, like it's an area control game or something. But even then, sometimes it has a solo mode. So it's kind of required. It's a cottage industry for some people. Like David Turchi he makes a living off of building these things for people.
He's a solo man.
Yeah, and the problem is they're not all very good.
No, they're not.
No, I throw out a solo mode sometimes. I'm like, this is not great. Why did you put it in here? You make me waste my time playing through it. um, but it's I guess the market's there. Obviously, the demand was always there, like on Kickstarter, Game Found, and now here we are. You can't buy a Euro game without solo play. That's for sure.
Sure. And it's something that it has a certain hotness level to it. Like you said, people not only just expecting it, but it brings the temperature up a little bit more on all those kind of crowdfunding sites.
Yeah.
Like it's the things that people shoot for. Like, but what about a solo mode? And they're like, it's got a solo mode.
Yeah. You know what it is though, because this is what it was for me for a long time, is if it had a solo mode, I could justify buying it.
Hmm.
I mean, like, because I could look at a game like, I don't know who I'm going to play that with. And I'm like, oh, it's got a solo mode? Oh, then it doesn't matter. I'll just buy it. Right. Even if I don't end up playing the solo mode or liking it very much. Right.
Sure.
Like I remember when I originally bought Root, I'm like, oh, there's a solo. There's like a clockwork thing. I've played the solo mode once or twice. It's not very good,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still my favorite game now. But I don't know if I would have bought it originally because it is so interactive. So I think that's part of it. It's giving people an excuse to spend money. Um, Not that board gamers need that, but there we go. All right, number 3 on the list is the big old collector's edition.
Oh, here we go.
So yeah, this is one of the more annoying trends, but also the ones I spent all the money on. So specifically, like all in, all the expansions, all redone, big box, fancy bits, hundreds of dollars.
Yes.
Right.
Close
And
to 1,000 now. We're getting close to the thousands.
yeah, it's so much money. And this started a long time ago, right? Like the War of the Ring collector's edition, the
Mhm.
first one of those is like 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now we're getting them like every other day. So you got your Castles of Burgundy special edition, your Puerto Rico special edition, your Anachrony Infinity Box, your Suburbia collector's edition. I have like 8 of these things. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I have the Small World edition, which is not small
Oh yeah, that's
whatsoever. And I think even before that, the one that really kind of woke up the market, at least I don't think it was a crap funded, but I think it was just like per purchase system, was not Tokaido. Tokaido had a collector's edition later. It's the one with the panda.
oh Takanoko. Yeah.
Takanoko, because it had the giant like $300 box with the giant bamboo stalks. And
Yeah.
it was a brilliant idea because the game has a lot of like really cool elements to it, those different color bamboo.
Yeah.
And I think it was 300, 350 or something at the time.
Oh yeah.
And then they
It's
make,
crazy.
if I remember correctly, and I don't know if I remember correctly, I think they made an even larger version of it.
Yeah, they do.
Like a giant, this would go back into the mega versions, right? Which was like gigantic panda. It's like,
Yeah.
why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
He's so giant. He's gonna eat so much bamboo. No.
Yeah. No, it's crazy some of these things that they're making now. Like I remember we were looking up at the Mega Civilization big crate thing
Oh man.
that they had at the convention one of those years. And you're like, how would you even carry that home? Like, it's probably weighs 50 pounds. Like, what am I going to do with that? But they had it.
That's the thing. It's a spectacle item, so you gotta appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm only mocking because I heard inside. Like, I keep buying
Same.
these things. All right. Number 2. This is one I was super hot on for a long time, but I've cooled a little bit. And I don't think you were ever hot on this. The roll / flip and right.
Boo.
Oh.
Boo, I say to you.
So it got really hot just in general. They were making a lot of them, but now we've kind of gotten into the era where they're like making roll and right, flip and right versions of existing games, right? Like Cascadia, Rolling Hills, Rolling Rivers. There's a Rajas of the Ganges roll and right coming out soon. There's a Twa roll and right. We have King Domino. Duel was like a roll and right. So it's become like a really easy way to take an IP of an existing board game and just kind of spin it really quick into a relatively simple game. And I'm assuming they don't take long to develop because they're often not very good. Um, of course, on the flip side of that, you get something like Twilight Inscription, which is like this big sprawling thing that takes 2 hours to play and does a decent job of building in that universe, even if it's kind of abstract. Um, what do you think, Chris?
There are flipping rights and rolling rights that I do like. It happened. It's a thing.
Sure.
It's documented. And one of the earliest games from, more than a decade ago was a roll and write, right? Roll Through the Ages. I like
Sure.
that game. It's very pub-like. It's got the wood dice, which is really cool.
Mhm.
And it's got the little, sticks. Great, great, great. And then they were like, I think Tabletop Game Company was like, we have a good idea, a good mechanic, a designer comes to them, and they're like, hey, what if we produce your game, but in the cheapest way possible?
Right.
And I think there are certain games that do lend themselves to that flip and right and roll and right. And I think, especially the German games, with all the kind of wacky names. But I think I find it feels weird. It feels like I'm not getting a complete game. It feels like I'm getting a print and play version of a game that I want. And a lot of the tabletop games like Roll Through the Ages and a lot of the other games out there have gotten a roll and write. There's so many of them. Orleans has a roll and write. Why? The Joan of Arc were like, you didn't need to do that. Like,
Yeah.
so many games were like, hey, we have a really cool board game. What if we made a roll and write version of it? Like a cheaper, lesser dynamic version of it. So it's a really weird pull situation. It's like, do you want the mega super deluxe version of it? Or do you want the dumbed down thing where you have to take this crazy pen and marker and try to scribble on a little whiteboard, a train line, and hopefully it doesn't get smudged? I'm just like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I know what game you're talking about.
You know what a game? It's Railroad Inc.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Look, it's super hot. Almost every game out there has gotten a roll and write or a flip and write. So that's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, like, yeah. All right, it's a thing. I get it.
Yeah.
It's there.
You're done with it. I get it. It's all good.
It's like everything else. All of these trends are good based on certain games, and all these trends are bad based upon other games, especially when they try to push it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think there's like 4 or 5 roll and writes that I really, really like.
Yeah.
And then almost everything else feels derivative of those and is less interesting.
Like Twilight Imperium, I played the roll and write.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but also it's not Twilight Imperium on any level whatsoever, except for the amount of time it takes, which takes a lot.
Well,
well,
comparative sense.
I mean, comparatively, yeah.
Yeah.
Scaled.
It's a 2-hour roll and write, which has become more common, right? You have like Hadrian's Wall.
Yes.
That was the Anarchy that's coming out. Like they're making these big long things now. So I don't like that, honestly.
They get away from the idea of what it was to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's like a big huge euro, but it's rolling right. I'm like, no, boo. I don't want that. All right, cool. So number one, we teased this earlier. The Duel.
Duel!
You did it. uh, so yeah, this is the hot trend right now, and it's not surprising. It's not new at all. Like Uwe Rosenberg has been doing Duel games for decades. You had like Le Havre and Agricola and Caverna going way
Mhm.
back. These all
Yeah.
have Duel versions. But in the last like 18 months, I
Yeah.
feel like we're just getting inundated with Duel versions. So King of Tokyo just talked about. We got a
Mhm.
Zool coming up.
Yes.
White Castle just announced one. But obviously, the ones in more recent years, not so recent, but like Lord of the Rings, Duel for Middle Earth, which is based on Seven Wonders Duel.
Yeah.
Like
That was
this
not that long ago either.
No, not at all. So the whole like back and forth thing,
The
Star Realms is another one. It's not called
Yes.
Duel, but it's Star Realms, Star Wars the deck building game, 2
Yes.
players only.
Mhm.
So there's a bunch of them.
There's a lot of them out there, and even Splendor Duel that came out not
Oh
too
yeah.
long ago. But
Yep.
that was something that was just like, oh, okay, we're literally doing this with everything. So that makes a lot more sense. Again, there are games that are just built for duels, like that's the game mechanic. But we're talking about the games that got a dual version.
Yeah.
I think one of the odd ones that came out a couple years ago. I haven't played it. Cosmic Encounter Duel, that was a thing, and
Oh, how does that work?
it's a 2-player duel game. I was interested in it because I like Cosmic
Yeah,
Encounter despite the wackiness of it. But that was a dual version. I was like, that doesn't make any kind of sense.
No. It
Emotep,
doesn't make.
the duel got a game. King Domino got a dual version, which seems weird because it's already. But I guess people like that idea of the tug of war. So, like whether it's Watergate, obviously it's not called a duel, but it's definitely a duel game.
Yeah, no, there's so many of them. Some of my favorite games of all time are 2-player dueling games, like
Yes.
War of the Ring, Star Wars Rebellion.
Yes.
Like these are back in Android Netrunner,
Oh, yeah.
Patchwork.
Mhm.
These are all duelish games, but slapping the words "duel" at the end of your game title and finding a way to turn a game that was not really great at 2 into a 2-player game,
Sure.
that's definitely a trend, right?
Absolutely. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. The top 10 hottest, super hottest trends out there in tabletop gaming. Hopefully, you enjoy some of these, if not all of these kind of games, and help you keep up with the trends a little bit. See what's coming up next. You can kind of see the patterns in the matrix. Until next time, this is Chris,
Hey, and this is Anthony.
and we'll save you a seat, as always, at the table. See ya.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Every hero strikes out on their adventure for a different reason.
To prove myself worthy of my mother's praise.
To write my own story and discover who I really am.
To prove to my family that I am more than they believe me to be.
To revive the god that has chosen me.
But when the fragile balance of the world is in jeopardy, and sinister forces move in the darkness, heroes will be tested, pushed to their limits and beyond. And it will be left to them to determine if they are up to the task. There is a darkness rising. Will they be able to overcome the challenges and meet this evil head on?
For my god.
For my story.
For my freedom.
For the world.
To restore the balance. Modified Role Season 2, The Chronicles of Erin, a D&D 5e actual play podcast. New season, new characters, new story. Find us on all the usual podcasting apps or at modifiedrole.com.